In the name of the living God, the Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Amen. Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Well, actually, no. The weed that Jesus is referring to in this parable is probably darnel. It's also called false wheat because it looks just like wheat, and it's been the scourge of wheat farmers for over 3,000 years, and it started right back there in the ancient Near East. And yes, its roots are very deep and they tangle with the roots of plants around them, which is why the master in the parable doesn't want to pull them up. But he's actually got a worse problem. You see, false wheat, darnel, the grain looks so much like wheat that it is inevitable that it will get mixed in with the wheat at the harvest. So you see, your wheat seeds will always have some darnel mixed in. So you see, it wasn't an enemy that sowed them while he was sleeping. It was there all along. It's interesting how we always want to think that it was an enemy who did something. I'm remembering Flip Wilson, the devil made me do it. But the fact is that the farmer and we are destined to sow these children of the evil one year after year, and we eat it in our bread. And yes, because darnel is prone to a nasty fungus, it can make your cattle sick and cause you to hallucinate. And interestingly, darnel is entirely dependent on humans to sow it and to grow it. So, as with the system of sin, we have darnel as a system, as a symbol of a system. We are stuck together. For us, what that means is that we're a mixed bag. It is not some outside evil brought in by some alien enemy, but humans carry some false wheat along with good old Kellogg's wherever we go. Now, Matthew was prone in his gospel to sorting and separating things. The good versus the bad, the sheep versus the goats. You see, Matthew was probably a Jew. His community, we believe, were a community of Jewish followers of Jesus. Matthew's gospel was written at a time when the Jews who followed Jesus and the Jews who didn't were led by the Pharisees, that those two groups were in the process of differentiating from each other. So how do we define us versus them? Surely there was a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth at that time when Matthew was writing this gospel. And we, of course, we love to sort things too. Black versus white. And I'm not talking about Crayolas here. Left versus right. And we like to do that because it makes us see ourselves as pure. Purely something, not necessarily purely clean, but purely something. So that we can say, I'm not like that person. So embedded in this message is also a message of a system that binds us together, not only as a society of good and bad, left versus right, not only as a society, but also it binds up our individual personalities. Each of us is both saint and sinner, and God knows this, even if we don't. But that, Jesus tells us, is the kingdom of heaven. That's what Jesus says. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed seed in his field, and while he was asleep, an enemy came up and put the bad seeds in. That's the kingdom of heaven. And this idea of good seed mixed with bad, it's going to be with us, Jesus tells us, until the end of the age. So what is the takeaway for us? Well, here are some ideas. As we're talking about our alabaster statues all around, or the ones made of bronze, let's remember that the people depicted on them also have feet of clay. And let's take another look at our nation, because what this tells us is that we can't pull out anything or we lose our own roots. There can be no ethnic cleansing because we're not clean to begin with. There can be no white supremacy because we're not supreme. There can be no America first because our roots are too tangled. But we can look to salvation. And what we know about salvation is that if we are not all saved, then none of us are saved. Amen.